Let's face it, we all get on the internet generally at least once to 200 times a day. We all do it. We're all guilty of it. But it's a convenience. And it's become so convenient that people have started to rely on it, and it's really changing the face of even how we think. People love options, and options have become more popular and more present due to the internet. So I think about that and I put that into perspective of my own business, and I say, well, generally we used to only offer like one session type. That's just, you either come get it or you don't. Well, today's consumer is a little bit trickier than that. There's so many photographers, there's so many options that when people call your studio, you need to have options too. So at our studio, we always mention on the phone, well, listen, we have 3 different options. That's the first thing that we say to people, one of the first things we say, and people like that. They like hearing that they have options. Because if you only have one thing, it's not really that appealing to a broad market. So don't sell yourself short on offering just one thing. When you explain those options, you're a salesperson at that point. And you don't want to start with the very lowest option that you have, the one that brings the least amount of money into your studio, right? No, you want to go big. You want to start with the very biggest option that you have. And then you feel that client out a little bit and see if that's something that they're interested in. And if you get the sense that that might be a little more than what they're looking to spend, you need a backup plan. That's when you go to option number 2. And now all of a sudden, you're trying to make option number 2 sound like that's the best thing, that's the most popular thing, that's what the general public buys when they come to your studio. Now, if you find that they don't really like option number 2 and they say, well, yeah, I'm not real quite sure about that, if you pick up on that, then you shift gears and you try to make option number 3 sound the very best and make that sound like that's what really the most people buy. So having those options has been key for us this year in keeping an influx of people coming through the doors because, I'm not really sure about your area, but in a lot of areas I'm hearing that the days of people coming in and spending thousands of dollars on portraits, they're kind of few, far, and in between. So it's up to you to devise a plan to keep that phone ringing and to keep your pockets at least not necessarily full of money, but keep enough in there to keep you afloat. All right, here's another point I want to make. I hear a lot of people talk about session fees. Other photographers in the community and in the industry, well, what do you charge for a session fee? Well, I charge $5 million for a session fee. Or, I just charge $10 for a session fee. Or, I don't really charge a session fee. It's all over the board, all over the board. Well, I'll tell you, I charge a very modest session fee. I don't want to get crazy with a session fee because someone calls, that's generally one of the first questions they ask is, yeah, how much is your session fee? And if I tell them that a session fee is $250, a lot of times that can scare them off to the point where they say, okay, thank you, and hang up the phone. They may not allow me the opportunity to explain to them why my session fee is $250 or $300 or whatever yours is. So I don't know, I've just found it to be more inviting, more appealing, and more marketable to have a much lower session fee, but build that into your price. So if you want to charge a $200 session fee, just build it back into your pricing so you're not necessarily charging a $250 session fee. So keep that really, really modest. And that's another thing. That's what's going to get out in the community more. People will say, oh yeah, so-and-so photography, can you believe their session fee alone is $250? Now, they're not going to explain why it's $250. They're not going to explain that, well, that photographer, they have a huge overhead versus the person that works out of their car. Not that there's anything wrong with working out of your car, but they have to charge $250 for their session fee because I've learned that really they have to bring in about $45,000 a month just to break even to pay for everything. So that's why it is so expensive. They'll never explain that. So remember that when you're thinking of your session fees. And I wish you the best. And remember, keep an open mind and never throw any idea out until you really explore it and see if it'll fit the options of your studio.